doesn't affect the record one way or the other, correct?
Correct.
The record's made at the time the text passes through Sprint, is that true?
Yeah, through the network, yes, sir.
Now, if I could, going back to exhibit number 158. You're showing on the screen a contact from exhibit number 158. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And could you just tell us the header of the contact and the telephone number that you see?
The actual header name
The name, I'm sorry.
is it's Papu, and the telephone number associated with that name is 561-755-0678.
Now, I'll show you that contact as well. Sir, tell us what that is as well.
Same name, Papu, 561-755-0678.
If I could now back to your records, exhibit number 246. You tell us, if you recognize your record there on page 427.
Yes, I do.
And could you tell us, please, what appears just above the ruler there, please?
Can. The 4304 number calls the 516-755-06...
Sorry, I think you said 516, 561, correct?
Pardon me. 561-755-0678 number on April 24th, 2013 at 3:27 in the PM.
And the duration of that contact?
So 241 seconds, approximately 4 minutes.
Then I'm going to show you your record. Just above. Ruler.
Sir?
Can you tell us what's depicted there in your record?
Yes. 860-845-4304 calls 561-755-0678 at 10:27:50 in the AM on April 26th, 2013.
Again, can to show you your record, exhibit number 246 at page 437, just above the ruler. You recognize what's depicted there, please?
Yes, I do. It's an outbound call from the 4304 number to the 0678 number at 16:30 or 4:30 p.m. on April 29th, 2013.
And the duration of that contact, please?
It's 51 seconds.
Now, as we move down the record, I'm going to ask you, do you see what's now just above the ruler there?
Yes, I do.
And what is that, please?
It's an outbound text from the 4304 number to the 0678 number on April 29, 2013 at 18:32.
That's 18:32 Central Time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And again, moving down now, next line, do you see that?
Yes, I do.
What is that, please?
There's a inbound text from the 0678 number to the 4304 number at 18:35 or 6:35 p.m. Central on April 29, 2013.
Again, moving down to the next line, do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what that is, please?
There's an outbound text from the 4304 number to the 0678 number at 18:45 or 6:45 Central Time on April 29th of 2013.
And then moving further down, do you see that?
Yes, I do.
What's shown in your record there?
It's an outbound text from the 4304 number to the 0678 number at 19:29 or 7:29
Central Time, correct?
Central Time on the 29th of April 2013.
And the line just below that?
The 0678 telephone number sends a text message to the 4304 number. It's inbound to the 4304 at 19:32 or 7:32 Central on April 29th, 2013.
Then back to your record exhibit number 246, page number 490, very last row there. Do you see what's depicted there?
Yes, I do.
What's depicted there?
It's a outbound call from 4304 to 561-755-0678 on May 24, 2013 at 19:38:25, which is 7:38:25 in the PM.
The duration of that call, please.
It's 113 seconds.
Again, back to your, still in your record exhibit number 246 on page 498. You see what's depicted on that line?
I do.
What's depicted on that line?
There's a inbound call from, can you just drop it down one,
Drop what down?
the ruler?
Yes?
Yes, sir. So there's a inbound call from the 0678 number. In this specific transaction, it's two lines depicting one transaction.
And how do you know that?
With inbound calls that are routed, there's two different types of routed calls. So there's a routed call that's routed to voicemail. It goes to the voicemail platform, and it goes to voicemail, and the caller can leave a message. This type of a routed call is different. It's a routed call that is always going to be inbound to the record holder's telephone number. Showing the 561-755-0678 number, calling the 860-845-4304 number, and we know that because it's inbound to that record holder, but it has to use a TLDN.
What is a TLDN?
A TLDN is a temporary local dialing number. And so in this placeholder here, we have another number that is foreign to what we're looking at. It's a 305-992-9837 number. And you see it on both lines, the inbound and the routed. Below that, there's another one. It's the 992-9824 number. So Sprint has these switching numbers, or temporary local dialing numbers, that are internal to Sprint. Their only function is to get the call from outside of the home network into the home network for the receiver, or for whom the records are relaying to. In other words, we have these numbers at Sprint, and they're designated numbers. They have to aid a call to get to its destination. So they're internal to Sprint. They function as for lack of better words, a piggyback number. It pushes the information to its final destination. And there's no subscriber. They're just designated series of numbers that act as temporary local routing numbers.
And you recognize that number, 305-992-9824, as one of those temporary numbers?
Yes, sir.
And is it fair to say that, I think you said this only happens in an inbound call, that this type of record is created, correct?
Absolutely. So for a routed call that is inbound, it would only be inbound. There would never be a routed outbound. And the other type of routed call that you would see would be the one that had the 6245 in the second column that I said designated to mail, which would be a different type of routed call, but it's being routed to the network or the voicemail platform to leave a voicemail.
Having this temporary local dialing number that you described, and having inbound and routing as you described, is there something about the start dates and times and the end dates and times and the durations, when you look at them together, that help you see that that is what you've described?
Yes.
And can you explain that to the jury who's about what the record is reflecting there in those other columns?
Okay. The numbers are going to match up. So you're going to see the routed number, the temporary TLDN. You're going to see that number, which in this case is a 9824, on both lines. But beyond that, you look at the time, and the time is inside of time. And I know that sounds crazy, but the 143308 and the 143402 are linked in with the time for the transaction. And the minimal amount of time, there's going to be a minimum amount of time. Sometimes they match up, but if you see it's 54 seconds and 53 seconds. Well, it's all one transaction. But sometimes there's a slight variation of seconds. But sometimes they do match up, and you'll see 54 and 54. But it's because of that routed portion, the routed leg, has a minimal amount of time differential to get the routing piece to the end piece, which is to make that call transact and actually go through.
Now, moving down the record, show you these two lines above the ruler. Do you see what's depicted there?
Yes.
And can you tell us what's depicted there?
So there's another inbound call from the 0678 number to the 4304 number, and it's using the TLDN of 305-992-9914, and that's on May 26, 2013 at approximately 4:10 in the PM.
Showing you now page 500 of exhibit number 246. Do you see what's depicted there just above the ruler?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what that is, please?
It's an outbound call from the 4304 number to the 0678 number on May 27, 2013 at 5:30 p.m.
Now on page 501 of your record, you see what's depicted there just above the ruler?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what that is, please?
It's an outbound call from 4304 to the 0678 number on May 28, 2013 at 9:02 and 10 seconds.
And the duration of that call, that contact?
It's 2 minutes and 1 second, 121 seconds.
Showing you now page 554 of your record. You see that?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what's depicted there on page 554, please?
I can. It's a call from 561-755-0678 to 860-845-4304 on June 21st, 2013 at 19:23 or 7:23 in the PM. That goes to voicemail.
Moving down the record, you see now what's depicted on the same page just above the ruler.
Yes, I do.
What is that, please?
It's another call from 561-755-0678 to 860-845-4304. That goes to voicemail, and that's June 22nd, 2013 at 4:07 p.m.
To show you this,
Goes to voicemail.
That goes to voicemail as well.
Yes, sir.
And just now, further down the record, just above the ruler.
561-755-0678. Calls 860-845-4304 on June 23rd, 2013. 1:46 or 13:46 in the PM, and that goes to voicemail as well.
Now, again, I'm going back to exhibit number 158. You recognize that as contact from exhibit number 158.
Yes, sir.
And the name of the contact in exhibit 158 that we're looking at.
Oh,
And can you tell us the telephone number of that, please?
yes, the number is 617-785-3008.
Now, in addition to those call detail records, did you have occasion to, on behalf of Sprint, produce the records that you've described as containing cell site information?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm going to show you what goes, is essentially in, well, let me ask it to you this way. Do you recognize what I have in my hand?
Yes, I do.
And what is that, please?
These are call detail records for phone number 860-845-4304 that include cell site information for a given date range.
Okay, and the first date that is included there in the record?
The first date is June 12th of 2013.
And the last date that's included there in the record?
The last date is going to be June 18th of 2013.
And that's in the first segment of what I gave you, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And this next segment, is that the same information?
It is an extension of that with a different date range, yes.
And what is that date range, please?
It is 6/19 or June 19th, 2013,
Until?
June 20th of 2013.
And again, are these the records of Sprint Telecommunications?
Yes, they are.
And are they created at or about the time the transactions occur?
Yes, sir.
And are they relied on in good faith in the normal course of the business of Sprint Telecommunications?
Yes.
And they, I'm going to offer these as an exhibit.
Okay, Your Honor.
Maybe Mark's next exhibit.
Two 48.
Now, as it relates to these records would have now been marked Exhibit 248. Can you just orient us to the information that's contained in there?
I can. So, much like the last record that we looked at with just the call detail records, this one has two other columns on the far right side.
And so, if I could, I'm just on the record now. Is everything to the left identical to the information that's contained in the regular call data record?
Yes, sir.
And is it just these two last columns that are different?
Absolutely.
And can you describe what appears in the two last columns, please? And I'll just zoom in on that better.
Okay. So the second to the last column is the first cell column. And it gives a series of digits. There's 5 of them. Well, that's broken down by the first digit being the cell tower orientation, or the side of the tower that the radio frequency emanated from when a call took place, whether to that phone or out from that phone. And then the last digits are the actual cell ID number, or cell tower number for that transaction. So in this case, it would be 124. 124, you'd have to refer to repo list 247, which is the next column over. It says repo number. You'd have to refer to that 247 list that I described to you earlier as an umbrella to locate that 124 cell number.
And when you do that, what does that tell you?
It gives you information about that cell tower, the latitude and longitude, and the site name, those types of informations, the things that are pertinent to where that cell tower is situationally located within the United States.
And if we could just move down a little bit here. You see at this location, just above the ruler now, on the first cell and the last cell, the two numbers don't match.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you explain to the jurors what that means?
Okay, so within our records, we keep the first cell that it's utilized, whether it's a call coming in or a call going out, the tower that actually relays the information to that specific handset. And then we showed the last tower that was communicating with that phone. And that's what the records show.
And does that indicate that during the course of the call, the cell phone switched the tower that it was communicating?
Yes, it does.
Now, as it relates to the cell phone number 617-785-3008. Just going to, on this exhibit number 248, just above the ruler there. Can you see that okay?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell us, please, what's depicted in your record as it relates to that cell phone?
There's an incoming call from 617-785-3008 to 860-845-4304 on June 15th, 2013 at 2:35 a.m.
And the date of that?
June 15th of 2013.
And does that indicate how long that contact lasts?
Yes, it does.
What is that?
It's 197 seconds.
And moving just now further down on same page, do you see what's now depicted above the ruler?
Yes, I do.
And what is that, please?
There's another incoming call to the 4304 number from 617-785-3008 that takes place on June 15, 2013 at 3:37:04 in the AM that lasts for 81 seconds.
Now, and I'm showing you now Exhibit 248. You recognize what's depicted there?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us, please, what's depicted just above the ruler?
There's an outgoing call from the 4304 number to 617-785-3008. And that is on June 17, 2013 at 1:22:42 or 1:22 in the AM. Lasts for 25 seconds.
And this record shows the cell tower information that was used when the Sprint phone 4304 made that contact. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Moving down the record, do you see what's depicted there?
Yes, I do.
What's depicted there?
There's a outgoing call from 617-785-3008. Actually, I got to back that up because there's another piece to that. You slide it to the left, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's actually the 4304 is outgoing to the 3008, and it's June 17, 2013 at 1:52:54 in the AM. Lasts for 62 seconds.
Now, in the in-between of those two calls from 4304 to 3008, do you see the number that is called? See that between those two calls?
There's a outgoing call, and then there's the incoming, and then two outgoing.
No, I'm sorry. The first, on June 17th in the morning, the first call from 4304 to 3008.
Yes, sir.
That you described as this one at 1:22, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then the second one that you described from 4304 to 3008 is at 1:52 a.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
And in the in-between time, do you see that call there?
Yes, I do. It's actually a text
Oh, I'm
message.
sorry, a text message. I apologize.
Yes, sir.
And that would have been actually now, that's Central Time, correct?
Yes.
And so that indicates 1:27:09, is that correct?
Central. Yes, sir.
Central. And so what time would that be?
It would be 2:27:09 Eastern
And
in the morning.
in the morning. I'm showing you again exhibit number 158. Can you tell us, you recognize that as a contact, correct?
Yes, I do.
And for whom is that contact? What's the telephone number, please?
The number is 860-502-2593, and the name associated with is Shayana.
Now continuing to work down the record. After that 1:52 a.m. in the morning call, is there then the next call activity from 4304 to 3008?
Yes.
And can you tell us what that is, please?
So there's an outgoing call to 617-785-3008 from the 4304 number on June 17th, 2013 at 2:24 a.m. and it lasts for 34 seconds.
The next call, please.
There's an outgoing call from the 4304 number to 617-785-3008. That's outgoing, and it is June 17, 2013 at 2:25 a.m. and it lasts for 89 seconds.
And those last two calls that you described, those also have cell tower or cell site locations on the right-hand side, is that correct?
Yes, they do.
And as it relates to the 2:24 a.m. call, you see those?
Yes.
And does that indicate that there's movement between two cell sites?
Yes.
And again, at 2:25,
Yes.
now going down to this next call on the record, you see that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what that call is, please?
I can. It's an outgoing call from the 4304 telephone number to the 3008 telephone number, or 617-785-3008. It's outgoing from the 4304 number, and it's June 17th, 2013 at 2:32 in the a.m. It lasts for 29 seconds.
And does that also have cell sites associated with it?
Yes, it does.
Now, I'm going to show you what's been previously marked as exhibit number 118. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And is there a telephone number indicated in that particular exhibit?
Yes, there is.
Can you tell us what that telephone number is, please?
The number that's highlighted is 617-930-1341.
Now I'm going to show you your record, exhibit number 248. Do you see what's depicted in that record?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what is shown in that portion of exhibit number 248, please?
I can. There's a call that goes to voicemail from 617-930-1341 to 860-845-4304 on June 18th, 2013 at 59 seconds, or 59 minutes and 49 seconds after midnight.
So that's 12:59 a.m., is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And if we move backward in the record into June 17th, early morning of June 18th now, towards June 17th, do you see what's now just above the ruler?
Yes, I do.
And what is that, please?
It's a Let me look here. Can you just slide it down a little
Yeah.
bit? I just want to make sure I got the whole thing. All right, we're good. There's an incoming call from 203-606-8969 to 860-845-4304. It is routed, so it's 2 lines taking place of that one transaction. And the TLDN that's being utilized is the 203-904-9209 number. But if you look at the time that's involved on June 18, 2013, it's 0912, and then the line after is 0914, and then the end times match up, and then like I spoke to earlier, there's a slight variation of total time. It's 23 and 25 seconds, but that's because of the actual temporary local routing number differential. So
And the call just above that, does that also take 2 lines to read?
yes, sir.
And could you describe for us from where that call comes?
I can. That is a call coming into the 4304 number from 860-502-2593. It utilizes the TLDN 203-904-9460. That's on June 18, 2013. And the times show time with inside time 0101 0410, which is after midnight, and then it shows the slight variation of 189 seconds and 185 seconds. That's all one transaction.
Just moving backwards now into the late night of June 17th. You see that? Does that take 2 lines also to read?
Yes, sir.
And again, that's a call from 2593 into 4304. Is that correct?
Yes.
And just placing back there, exhibit number 158, that's that same number, 2593, ending in 2593, correct?
Yes, sir.
Moving backwards earlier into June. And could you tell us what time that call transaction took place?
That took place at 11:36 and 57 seconds.
And that's between that's a call from 8969 to the 4304 number, is that correct?
Absolutely.
And the duration of that call, please.
It's a total of approximately 73 seconds.
And the call immediately preceding that on June 17th. Could you tell us, is that one of those calls that takes 2 lines to read?
No, that is it's a standard call at 203. When I say standard, it's just not routed. 203-606-8969, calls 860-845-4304, and that's at 23:22:36.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what, I apologize. What you just read, I had the one covered up beneath it. Do you see that?
I do.
How that goes together? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
let me look here.
What if we look at this call here, 8969, that's routed, and then this one right beneath it that says incoming, does that indicate something to you?
Yes, I mean, they're together, so they're paired.
Those 2 are together?
Yeah.
And then the one that says incoming and then routed beneath it, does that indicate something to you?
Yes, they're paired as well.
Okay. And so this call here, the 2322 one, that's from 8969 to 4304, is that correct?
Correct.
And that uses a TLDN, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
And the call immediately above that, is that also a routed call from 2593?
Yes, it is.
And what time was that?
It's at 23:03:02.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
That's a little after 11 p.m.
Correct.
The call above that,
That's the actual,
is that?
yep, it's the 8969, calling the 4304, and that takes place at 22:52:13, and it finalizes at 22:53:20.
Now, just going to go to this call up here. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what that call is in the record?
There's a call from 203-606-8969 that goes to 860-845-4304, and it's routed to voicemail. And that's on June 17th, 2013 at 9:47 p.m.
9:47 in the evening on Monday, June 17th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And what was the duration?
It was 7 seconds.
Now, started with this 930-1341 number at 12:59 in the morning on June 18th. See that there?
Yes, I do.
Is there then subsequent calls from that same number, 617-930-1341?
There are.
And can you describe the calls subsequent that appear in the record?
So at 6/18/13 at 1 a.m. in 35 seconds, or if you piece them together here, you have a series of 2 calls that go to voicemail, 1 incoming call in between that, and they're all from the 1341 telephone number to the 4304 number. And then there's another incoming call from 617-930-1341 to the 4304 number on June 18th, 2013 at 1 a.m.
And does your customer, 4304 there, then place a number or call to that number 860-502-2593?
Absolutely.
There are then calls from the 606-8969 number into the 4304 number that morning now, just after 1 a.m. on June 18th.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Your records show that there are now continuing calls in after those 3 calls that go to voicemail from the 617 number. There are then calls from the 8969 number into your customer's phone, 4304 at 1 o'clock thereabouts, just shortly after in the morning on June 18th.
Yes, sir.
Show you the next page of exhibit number 248. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell us what that is, please?
There's a text message from 617-930-1341 to 860-845-4304 on June 18, 2013 at 1 a.m. and 19 minutes.
Now, that's Central Time, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so could you convert that to us to Eastern Time?
It would be 2:19 Eastern.
2:19 a.m. on June 18th, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
see what's depicted there just above the ruler?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us what's depicted there just above the ruler?
Yes, there's a incoming call from 617-930-1341 to 860-845-4304 at 2:17:07 in the AM. It lasts for 25 seconds.
And can you tell, looking at that next line, whether that call is routed?
So at that time, there's another call that comes in from 617-930-1341 that goes to voicemail for the voicemail of the record holder, which is 860-845-4304. And that goes to voicemail at 2:17:39.
And there's continuing activity there from 617-930-1341 that early morning to approximately 2:20 or thereabouts, 2:18 to 2:20.
Yes, sir.
And those transactions and the transactions that are subsequent to that on this record, that has the cell site information, is that correct?
Yes.
Could have a moment, please.
Me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
So I have some questions about how to read your records, if you'll bear with me for a moment.
Sure.
So, just showing you page 1 of Exhibit 246.
Okay.
That's Exhibit 246, and these are, sorry. Can you see that on the screen?
Absolutely.
So these are call detail records for the phone number ending in 4304, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was identified in the cell phone you were shown, Exhibit 158, as associated with someone named Bo.
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir.
Is that what you recall seeing?
Yes, sir.
Testifying? So these 556 pages of records in Exhibit 246 are records of a number ending in 4304 associated with the name of Bo on that cell phone at least, correct?
Correct.
And I think you testified that the subscriber information, which was marked, I think, as Exhibit 245 perhaps, showed that it was subscribed to someone named Tanya Valderrama.
Yes, sir.
Now, I think you testified that you can tell when an incoming call on 4304 goes to voicemail because there's a column that says routed call, and then there's a series of notations in the second column that in Sprint speak means voicemail. Is that right?
Yes.
So if you take the second line here, can you see the line got my paper under?
Yes, sir.
So that's a number calling 4304, correct?
Absolutely correct.
And the second column has this 6245000, which to you means that that call went to voicemail.
Yes, sir.
And the third column tells us that that is to an incoming call to 4304, correct?
It's a voicemail. I mean, I can only see 1 and 2.
Well, if someone was calling 4304, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And it went to voicemail.
Yes, sir.
And then the other way you know it went to voicemail is because it's in addition to the 6245 notation in the second column, it also says routed call.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
And so that call was placed at 12:20 in the morning on January 1st, 2013,
Correct.
and it ended 2 seconds later.
Correct.
Now, explain to me how the duration of that call is recorded by Sprint.
So the 2 seconds is the total time from when it attached to the network. And so for 2 seconds, the 860-940-9656 number, it dialed the 860-845-4304 number. It hit the voicemail platform for 2 seconds, and then that was it.
So it's not the time when the initiator of the call began dialing or pushed the send button, correct?
Correct.
It's the time when the 4304 doesn't answer, but the voicemail pops up.
Correct.
And so would it be fair to assume in that instance that if it was connected for 2 seconds, the caller did not leave a message?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. It would have hit the voicemail platform, and they chose most likely not to leave a message.
It would most likely just get the recording and then hang up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the NEID column, the next to the last column on this exhibit, tell us what that refers to.
That's the network identifier.
And you said that is, what is that?
It's the area in which that information is transcending from. So within the network identifier and the repoll, it's a general area of where that transaction took place.
So, and would that tell us where the calling number was or where your customer was?
It has to do with the actual customer information.
Okay, so with respect to the NEID, the Network Identification Area, that can be quite large, is that right?
Can you repeat the question?
With respect to the NEID, that area can be quite large.
Absolutely.
And within that area, there can be dozens or hundreds of cell phone towers.
Yes.
And with respect to Sprint Telecommunications, how many NEID areas are there?
There are multitudes. I mean, we cover the entire United States, so
So there would be thousands of areas.
if you
across
break
the
them
country.
down, I would say thousands.
Okay. And then you've got a repoll number in the last column. See that?
Absolutely.
And tell us again what the repoll number means.
So a repoll, and I described it earlier as, it's a given area, and I describe it as an umbrella. So much like the network ID, it covers an area. The repoll number has all the cell sites that are within that given area.
So would a repoll be a subset of an NEID?
It would be a piece of that information, yes.
So in other words, within a given NEID, you might have a bunch of the umbrellas or the repolls.
Right, it's one umbrella. That is repoll 247. Within 247, there are multitudes of cell sites that have named cell ID numbers that would collaborate with the information that you would need to have in order to disseminate the records for the cell site information on the CDR cell site.
And we have Exhibit 247. These are the cell site locations for various areas, is that right?
Yes.
And I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 individual packets within 247?
No. So 247's named 1, but there's going to be variations of different repos.
Well,
So each one has its own umbrella.
Let me interrupt you because I think
Absolutely.
I confused you with my question.
No, you didn't.
Exhibit 247 contains 4 staple documents.
I got you. Yes, sir.
Okay? And so the first batch of documents for Exhibit 247 is for a cell site locations for 021, is that right?
Right, so Exhibit 247, not to be confused with Repo 247, has the various repo lists within the cell site information that collaborate with the records. Yes.
Okay, so 247, you've got 4 different packages, correct?
Yes, sir.
And those are for 4 different numbered geographical areas.
Yes, sir.
021, 056, 113, and 101.
Where are you getting the 101 from?
On the top.
Right, so what it's referencing is the NEID, but if you look to the left, or to the right rather, it shows the repo. So the repo is what shows up on the records along with the NEID or network ID. In my training, the information didn't used to be there on the network ID. Now that is a recent piece that they added into those records. So prior, I would use solely the repo, but then they added this network ID in. Does that make sense?
Well,
It all works in correlation with what the records reveal.
let me just show you this and ask you if, I'm just going to show you the first packet of Exhibit 247, if I may.
Sure.
And this is in very small type, and it's a lot of listings. Would I be correct in understanding that each of these listings is a cell phone site?
Yes, it would be a cell tower location.
A cell tower location.
If you want the jury to be able to actually see that, you're going to have to magnify
Thank you,
it a
Your
bit.
Honor.
Thank you.
Can you read that, sir?
I can.
Okay. So, just to kind of repeat that question, on this list of Exhibit 247, each line represents a different cell tower site. Is that right?
Yes and no. Each line is showing the pieces for that cell tower. And if you look to the far left column, it shows the cell number. The cell number is the number of that cell tower. That's the name of the tower. So in this case, if you look at all the ones, those are all in reference to this address here of 411 Massachusetts Avenue. Okay? And there's more to it because it shows in the far right column what's happening with that cell tower. And so it shows that things are pending or on air. So it breaks it down to what is actually happening there with that tower.
So, would I be understanding your testimony correctly that I hate to keep moving this around, but if we look in the very left-hand column, it's headed cell number,
Yes, sir.
and then there appear to be 6 entries that have the number 1.
Yes, sir.
And is that all for one cell tower location?
Yes, sir.
And this would be a cell tower that would be located at 411 Massachusetts Avenue
That's
in Arlington?
That's the approximation. So that address is for the engineers. It's for engineering purposes in order to locate that cell tower. So oftentimes they have to have an address to refer to where that tower is. The tower might not be right there. It might be down a road and to the left, but they have to know how to find that cell tower. So the latitude and longitude that is farther over, it is the exact coordinates for where that cell tower lays in correlation with the cell tower information.
And the reason that there are, in this case of entry number 1, 6 entries for number 1 is that there are 6 different antennas there. Is that, in lay speak, not quite?
No, sir, there's 3 different sides, but the way it's showing is pending and on air, okay? So that alludes to information that is pertinent for the engineer. So maybe they're getting ready to do something with that cell tower. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I'm the records custodian. But it does give you the 3 sides, and in this case it shows 6 entries, but essentially it's 3. Most cell towers have 3 sides. They have an alpha, gamma, and a beta, or alpha, beta, gamma, and those 3 sides are what is notated on the first and last cell with the first digit on the cell site records.
Okay, and just to show you again the last column in first page of Exhibit 247, it looks like you've got, of those 6 entries for that cell tower 1, you've got 3 that say pending and 3 that say on air.
Yes, sir.
And what does pending mean?
It's pending something. I don't know. But maybe they're possibly going to change something with the format of that tower. But it's on air at 30 degrees azimuth for the first sector. So that's the midpoint of that sector, which is sector 1 of that cell site.
All right. Now, returning back to Exhibit 246, we talked about the fact that the second entry is a call into voicemail, that went into voicemail of the customer, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, is there a way that you can tell of the outbound calls that came from your customer, which of those went into voicemail on the other end?
You would have to have the records for the other person to tell if those calls went to voicemail.
Okay, so if we see an entry here that reflects a call going from 4304 to some other number, and it lasts for some periods of seconds, there's no way to know if that is an actual phone conversation or if it went into voicemail without looking at something else.
That's a possibility, yes. In order to be definitive about it, you would have the records on the other end to know what happened in that transaction, yes.
Okay. So just looking at your records, there's no way to tell that, let's just say, an outgoing call, let's see if I can find one. that,
Yes, sir.
so that seems to show an outbound call from your customer to a number that ends in 0707?
It's an outbound text.
Outbound text, okay.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
And we know it's a text because there's no dialed digits entry in the third column, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then there's an entry of 0 seconds of duration. Is that right?
Yes.
And did I understand your direct examination correctly that there is no cell tower location information about text messages?
Correct. They do travel through a text message gateway, which those numbers can change, the gateways can change that facilitate text messaging, but in this case, that gateway is 528.
But that doesn't help us determine where the customer was when that text was sent.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Now, are there occasions when a text message is sent from one phone and there's some delay in it arriving on the other phone?
That's a possibility, yes.
And is that something you're familiar with?
It happens.
And what are the things that can account for that?
I mean, there's different variables.
Are you aware of any of the variables that might influence
The network might be having issues trying to send or receive text messages at any given time. It just happens, like their systems, they do have issues or things stop working temporarily every once in a while, and then there's a reset and then it starts working. Like, I don't work in the networking piece, so like an engineer might be able to tell you how those things break down and what they do to remedy that thing when it happens.
But that's something that happens from time to time.
It's a possibility, yes.
And would that be reflected in your call details in Exhibit 246?
Well, the call records just show what actually happened, and so it gives the overview, verbatim information that happens within our system as it happens. And beyond that, I can only say that the records are, and they show what actually happened.
So if it shows that a text message was sent by your customer at a certain time, does this record, Exhibit 246, say when that message was received by the person to whom it was sent?
No, it would show when that message took place in accordance to for whom the records belong.
So if I'm a Sprint customer and I send a text message at 12:44 and 10 seconds, the record is going to show that that's when I sent it. That's going to be the time recorded, correct?
Right, it's going to be recorded in Central Time, and dependent upon that of where that phone is in relation to that, you know, you're going to have to add time or deduct time.
Okay. So if we're in Eastern Time now, you would deduct an hour because the record is going to show an hour earlier than.
You'd have to add an hour.
So if it's 12:44 now in Eastern Time, your record's going to show that it was sent at what time?
11:44, yes, sir.
Okay. And if I was in California, it would be 2 hours difference from Central Time.
Correct.
So it would be, I would actually be sending it at 9:44, but your records would show 11:44.
Absolutely correct.
And with respect to text messages, there's no way from your records here, from the Exhibit 246, to tell that that text message was sent from a location in the Eastern Time Zone, or Central, or Mountain, or Pacific.
No, for what the records reveal, it's all going to be Central Time, because all text goes through central gateways. And so for our records, and I can't speak to anybody else's, but our records will show Central Time What is on the phone is going to be a differential of time because that's the way that it's going to be operating in Eastern Time or Pacific Time or Mountain Time or what have you.
Now, with respect to telephone calls, the number reflected in Exhibit 246 is going to show the time in the time zone where your customer was. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Wherever the phone is. So if it's operating in Eastern Time, that's what's going to be reflected for calls. If you fly to Colorado, it's going to show Mountain Time. If you fly to California, it's going to be reflecting Pacific Time. And that's the way it works.
And so, with respect to Exhibit 246, you can't tell by looking at the voice calls what time zone those calls were made from or to. I'm sorry, you can't tell what time zone your customer was in, right?
On the voice calls,
Yes?
they go to voicemail.
No, I'm sorry. A regular call that connects. So, I call somebody at 2:46 and or 12:46, and it shows on your record 12:46, right?
Right?
And I'm your customer,
Right?
but looking at your record, you're not gonna know whether I'm in California or Boston.
Oh, you'll know because the cell tower information's there if you have the cell site information.
Okay.
So that's going to give an immediate reflection of where the proximity or area where that telephone's operating.
Okay. But just looking at the time, the start date and end date of the phone, you're not going to know if that's for phone calls as opposed to text messages. You're not going to know if that's Eastern, Central, Mountain, or Pacific.
I'm not following you. I mean, anything that goes into that phone and out of that phone, you're going to know if you have the cell site information, what's happening with that telephone that the records belong to, for whom the records belong to. In this case, the 860-845-4304 number. It all reflects everything about that telephone and that handset. Okay? So the number is in correlation with the handset. Anything that happens with that handset, if you have all the pieces, and when I talk about all the pieces, you have the call detail records along with the cell site information, you're going to be able to disseminate pretty much what's going on with these records.
So in order to figure out what time zone the caller, the customer was in on call number 1, it says 12:20 a.m., correct?
It's 20 minutes after 12 and 22 seconds. Yes, sir.
So in order to figure out is that Eastern Time or Central Time, you would have to look at the cell site information.
No, because our cell phones operate wherever the phone's at. So if the phone is in Eastern Time in Massachusetts, it's going to reflect Eastern Time. If the phone is in California, it's going to reflect Pacific Time. The information solidifies it with the cell site information. So with Sprint, everything that we do on our phones as far as calls are going to be in correlation with where that phone is when it's operating. And texts are always going to be in Central Time, but you'll have to do the math depending on where that text is coming from on the other side, or the user that is texting the Sprint user, or for the number for which the records belong.
I'm probably not making my question clear enough. So just looking at line 1, this is a call that came into the customer, your customer, and it lasted 25 seconds, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's at about 12:20 a.m., correct?
Yes, sir.
And aside the NEID and the repoll,
Yes, sir.
is there a way to know where your customer was, what time zone your customer was in?
Well, the repo is going to reflect from that phone, the area where that phone's at.
No, I understand that. I'm
Okay.
just asking you.
But as far as that call coming in to that,
Yeah.
I don't know where that call's coming in from. I have no idea, because these records reflect that number, the 860-845-4304.
Your
In
customer.
in order to find that information out, you would have to have the records for that number that is in the first column, that number's information.
But if I wanted to know where your customer was when this call came in at 12:20,
Yes, sir?
I'd have to go to the cell site or the NEID or the repoll. I can't just take, it doesn't have an Eastern Standard Time or a Pacific Standard Time attached to your date and time, is that right?
No. The phone operates in Eastern Time if it's in Eastern Time, okay? Depending on where that phone is, that's going to be what's reflected on our records.
So if I cover up the last two columns here, can you tell me where your customer was when that first call came in?
No, I cannot.
Okay. That's because in order to figure out if it's in the Eastern Time or Pacific Time, you need to know at least the information in the last two columns.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Now, I think you said that picture messages do not appear on the call detail record?
Correct.
And did you also say that there are some texts that don't appear in the call detail record?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were explaining the other use of the term routed call.
Yes, sir.
And explained that there are times when you have to read two lines together.
Yes, sir.
And so as to avoid mistakenly assuming that there were actually two separate calls.
Yes, sir.
And let me show you Exhibit 246 and ask you to pick out an example of a pair of calls such, or a call such as that.
Sure. I'm gonna go down because I know I saw some over here.
So let's just put those back together so we don't get them out of order, if you don't
Sure.
mind.
So this one, there we go. Got it? Yes, sir.
So this is page 547. And I'm going to kind of show you the top, and then you point out on the screen, if you would, where the first instance of this paired calling appears.
Okay. So we have the routed calls that are going to voicemail on the 6245. And if you scroll down to the middle of the page, there is a call there that is routed.
Just, I think you need the leftmost column as well. You need the leftmost column? Would that be helpful?
Yes, it would be helpful.
Okay.
So there's a call, there's actually two calls from 617-930-1341.
Okay?
But those calls are routed, right? And it shows that they're routed, and it shows the first part of the call.
Let me ask you to, have I got it, am I in the right spot?
You're absolutely in the right spot.
All right, so what we're looking at is the two lines directly above my piece of paper, right? Is that,
Well, the one line, there's two different ones. There's one right on the paper.
yep,
And not to be mistaken, like this isn't one incoming portion and one routed portion. These are two routed calls going to the account holder for which these records belong, that telephone number,
yep,
from the 617-930-1341 number.
yep,
And they're both utilizing two different TLDNs.
yep,
But that 617-930-1341 number is in a different location. And so it's not reflecting the incoming portion because it's going to be hours off, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, depending on where that phone is, the 617-930-1341 number. I have to look on these records to find the TLDN match for that information, and it's going to be at the, well, there's going to be a little bit of a difference here because it's showing the routed portion depending on where that phone number's at when it makes the call, because there's going to be a variation of time. So say that phone, the 1341 phone is out in California. It's 3 hours time difference from
Just don't
what's
complicate
happening.
it more than it is.
But I have to. I can't explain it to you without that.
Let's assume that that phone was right here in good old Massachusetts.
Okay.
Let's assume that.
Okay.
All right, I know you can make it more complicated, but.
I'm not trying to. This
It's
is what the
hard
record shows. Like, I'm reading what the record shows.
Okay.
So we
that's
have to
what
find,
That's what I want you to do.
we have to find the second piece to that.
Okay,
Okay?
and.
And in order to
Just
do that,
Look at your record again?
I'll probably need to look at that stack, yes.
Okay.
Could I see counsel for a minute? It's a little bit after 1. We're going to suspend at this stage. Please keep an open mind. Continue to avoid anything at all about this case or Mr. Hernandez that may appear in a newspaper, television, a magazine, or any other media, or Facebook, Twitter, or any social media, please continue to avoid speaking or emailing or otherwise communicating with anyone else, including each other, by any means. And if anyone starts to talk to you about this case or your jury service or Mr. Hernandez, please end it immediately. Please do not do any research about this case or Mr. Hernandez or anything you think could be relevant in any way to this case. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Monday morning. Just a little preview of what I anticipate the schedule next week will be, unless there are some unanticipated scheduling issues, but I anticipate that we will be stopping half days on Thursday and Friday next week instead of Wednesday and Friday. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Would all rise?
He. All persons having anything further to do before the Honorable, the Justice E. Susan Gosh of the Superior Court, now sitting at Fall River within and for the Commonwealth, depart and give your attendance here Monday morning at 9 a.m., to which time and place the sitting of this court is now adjourned. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.